Beautiful. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this month's virtual tour of intentional communities. So glad that you are here with us. Hello to the folks that are watching this in our live Zoom audience. Hello to the folks who are watching on our Facebook live stream, and also to everyone who's watching this later when we post to YouTube. My name is Cynthia, and I'm going to be the host for today's event. I live in a small intentional community eco-village here in Vermont. So it's a beautiful summer day in July here. I hope that everyone in the Northern Hemisphere at least is enjoying summer. And I am also a community matchmaker. So I've been very fortunate to have traveled visiting lots of communities and now get to focus my time on helping people find communities that are a good fit for them. And it's really nice for me to get to host these monthly virtual tours in partnership with the Foundation for Intentional Community, because I get to learn, like we all do, about these communities all around the world without necessarily needing to go and travel to visit them. So yes, this is the power of Zoom and modern technology to get us to learn more about what's happening with these inspiring communities. So this is the July edition of the virtual tour. We've been doing this monthly for quite a while, certainly over a year at this point. And for this month, we have Hearthstone Village in British Columbia, Canada. We have Terra Frutis, a community in Ecuador, and then a forming community, Black Hills Collaboration for Sustainable Living in South Dakota. So really a mix of Canada, US, Ecuador, more of a global flair to this event. We're going to start with Hearthstone Village in British Columbia. And we have with Jacqueline and company. Hello, everyone. Really excited to learn more about your community. The photos look gorgeous. So I'm excited to learn more about what's happening there. So go ahead and take it away.
Hello. Hi, Cynthia and everyone. My name is Jacqueline, as previously mentioned. On my right-hand side is Jamie, another founding member here at Hearthstone Village. And on my left is Bangul, who is a new member. She joined at the beginning of this year. So we have a wonderful video to show you, which shows you a great deal about what the land looks like and the houses that we're building here, and has commentary from most of the other members are in that video, explaining things like our governance, a little bit about our membership process, and lots of other things. You'll see. I think without further ado, we should just get into the video, and then after that, if there's any questions and stuff that we didn't cover there, we're happy to answer anything folks might want to know about.
Hearthstone Village started about 7.5 years ago, and we had a great group of people who came together with a variety of skills and skill sets. Couple of different people were talking about this property and how amazing it was and what a good community fit it could be. And we got together and we just started, researching the idea, and we worked together for, about 3 years, trying to establish a strong foundation. So when we first came, the property was a little clearing in a big forest. There was a decent sized house here, the old homestead house, which we've turned into the common house, and a little bit of clearing and just surrounded by big forest on all 4 sides. And I think several in our group were just amazed by the magic of the place. We've got the forests and the river and the water and the ponds and the wildlife and so much infrastructure for a project like ours that really just set us ahead years in the development phase. But really the land is magical. It's like a fairy tale walking around here with the moss and the bridges. Yeah.
So living in a multi-generational community is really important to Hearthstone Village members. We live in a culture that has largely forgotten how to do this. And what we're trying to do is recreate it here. In our world, as it is today, the old sit in nursing homes, and young moms are at home with their babies by themselves. The elderly have been shown to do much better, really thrive in communities where they have a larger group of people to interact with. So young people, children, in many cultures, being an elder it holds a lot of respect. The elders are the ones that hold the stories and are able to teach the young. Children have the most energy, adults have the most power, and elders have the most time. You really need all three in order to build a community. My husband died here at Hearthstone Village, and the adults and the kids all got to be a part of his end-of-life ceremony as well as his death. Living in a multi-generational community allowed us to share in that experience, and it gave us greater resiliency and depth. 10 days later, Sebastian was born, and also here at Hearthstone, and that completed the cycle. It was really an amazing year.
Is Hearthstone looking for more kids right now?
Yes, definitely.
And you would be happy if you had like a whole troop just to like run wild and free with?
Yeah.
What kinds of games do you think you would get up to?
There's this game we play where we go out on the pond and there's a bunch of little like reeds and stuff and you can jump from them, and it's really fun because you can't fall in and then you are in the pond.
Little like islands. We usually wear a rain gear so we don't get as wet.
And then the FVFF, that's what we call our fort spot. It stands for the Fort Village of the Fern Forest.
Well, I saw in the forest over there, looks like there's some shelters.
Yeah, that's our base for our ninja camp.
And what kind of stuff do you guys learn at ninja camp?
We built a big catapult once. We built a raft once.
Built the alarm system.
Yeah.
Built an alarm system?
Yeah, our teacher is a real ninja. He's pretty cool.
So we organize ourselves through a governance structure called sociocracy, and so that is a non-hierarchical form of governance. We have 3 circles. They're our operational circles. There's the head circle, which deals with legal and governance and finance. There's the hand circle, which deals with infrastructure, development, and maintenance. And there's the heart circle, which deals with membership outreach to gain more members while we're growing, and to also care for the interpersonal connections between members here. We also have a circle called Little Hearth, so that is the circle for the children, so that we can really be weaving them into everything that we do here and experiencing and trying out sociocracy. And then we have a general circle that really holds the big picture and the flame of our vision.
It's been really just amazing to see a joint vision and how quickly, with sociocracy, with a good governance system, with a good way of making decisions, how quickly things can happen.
We visited a number of communities, and I would say the takeaway from that is really getting a feeling of how much privacy feels good or how much shared space feels important. And so there was a couple things that we prioritized when we were doing our planning here. And the one is for the housing to be able to connect with and see the common spaces in the common house. So when people in your houses or in your property, you can hey, somebody's going down there to do this, or somebody's starting a fire and we want to come hang out. And so to have that option to engage with the community was really important. The other piece that's been intentional in our design is creating shared spaces where there's intentional connection. So sharing a laundry, having parking away from the houses, and also keeping in mind that some of us are aging and some of us will have issues that occur that decrease mobility, and so keeping space for access still to be possible. I would say one of the amazing things about this place is that even with a lot of people, the property really lends itself to having little private nooks. And so there's all these beautiful little spots where we can have private moments and private space, even still being held by the community.
Right, so because we're still small in number, one of the things that we've done quite successfully is organized ourselves in work parties. We have 2 a month, and we sweeten the deal a little bit by having a delicious dinner at the end.
These are garden potatoes from our
Oh,
garden.
beautiful. This looks
This
delicious.
is zucchini from our garden. Now we're at the spa having a steam shower. Yeah.
Meals are a great way to come together with people, and it's also a great way to promote our community to the Cathet region.
I think a lot of people come in to this project and projects like this with a lot of ideals and idealism, and there is a lot of work that still needs to be done, and I think there's an energy that we're looking for of meeting the co-op where the co-op's at, and then bringing that idealism into creating policy, into kind of long-term vision. We are still in the process of building from the ground up, so there's a lot of work to do. But in my experience, having come from the city and had my little job and my friends, and having come here, my work feels 10, 20 times more meaningful, the effort that I put in, because I see it in my own life and the way it impacts me, but I see it in the way it impacts the other people at the co-op. The energy of the people that we are looking for right now in the project is an energy of a founding member. So somebody who is ready to land here and really begin work, you know? We are looking for people who have already found their voice and are ready to sing and share.
Okay,
Wow.
that was our video done by our friend Mink and Justin, and it's really fun to participate.
Wow, absolutely beautiful. So beautiful. Yes. Oh man. Just the photos and having the children and other members share about the community. Gorgeous. All right. Well, everyone who's listening, feel free to put your questions, please, into the Q&A box, if possible. And I see we already have a few questions coming through. Let's see. Actually, before we jump into those questions, I was just curious, could you give us just briefly just some basics about the community, like started, how many current members?
Sure. So we have 6 member households currently, with 9 adults and 3 children. And in addition, we now have 3 exploring member households. These are people that come to live on site with us here at Hearthstone Village and explore membership between 4 to 6 months. And this is a key part of our membership process.
Okay, great. How many households do you have room for?
We are full up right now,
Oh, you're full. Okay.
Except if you come with a tiny house to explore. We have 3 more spots open for 3 more tiny houses, but the other spaces that are used for exploring are currently full. We also, our membership is not full. We are open to more members, and we have more space for building.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
We've always said sort of 12 to 16 sort of family units is where we're aiming, but just sort of growing slow and feeling it out, you know, as we grow.
Yeah. When did you start? When did you get started?
We started in 2015. We began having meetings and looking for land. We worked at the time with a larger group. We had 7 to 9 households. It kind of would vary. People would come in and then, you know, change their minds, and new folks would join. And But yeah, we worked for about 3.5 years until we found this piece of land. And at that point, unfortunately, half of our group did not want to move here. So we split into 2 intentional communities, and 3 families went ahead with purchasing and developing this land. And then our friends, however, found a suitable place for them in town just a month later. So it worked out really well. And now Powell River has 2, actually there's a total of 4 intentional communities up here.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Can you speak more to your location? You know, where you are, how close it is to town, what is the surroundings like?
Yeah, sure. So we're located in called the Cathet Regional District. So we're outside of Powell River. We're about 19 kilometers, so about a 15-minute drive south of town. I would say we're set back from the ocean about maybe 2 kilometers, 1.5 kilometers back from the ocean. And we are 42 acres on site here. And behind us is basically wilderness. So we have no neighbors sort of on the wilderness side to us. And we're located on Eagle River. So we've got one boundary, our eastern boundary is all river. Yeah, we've got big forest. We've got a lot of water. We've got 3 good-sized ponds. We've got a creek that runs through our property, the river. Yeah, springs and wells and lots of water here. And yeah, the Cathet Regional District has been advantageous for us because it's relatively remote and very low enforcement on building regulations and building codes and zoning. So we have quite a lot of flexibility and have really been exploring and supportive of the natural earth-based building methods.
I see somebody had a question about sociocracy. I can explain just a little bit. It's an in-depth subject, and you can certainly find out more on our website. We have a page completely dedicated to it. But basically, sociocracy is a governance system from the Netherlands, which is about equivalency and really hearing everyone's, letting everyone's voice be heard. And we have used it from the beginning, and it is a requirement to join here that you train in sociocracy because it's a key component of how we make decisions. One of the things that we really like about it is that things don't have to be perfect before you can decide to go ahead. So if someone puts in a proposal, we ask ourselves, is it good enough to try? Is it safe enough to move forward? And it often is, because we know that if something doesn't work, we can change it at any time.
Beautiful. I like that short definition of sociocracy. Yeah, and it is a much more it's a deeper subject. So I'm going to include a link to a book that the FIC has in their bookstore that you might find interesting. And then what is your website? We can put that into the chat as well.
www.hearthstonevillage.ca.
Okay, great. Hearthstonevillage.ca, and it's great that you have a whole page on there about sociocracy. Yeah, great resource. All right, let me see. I think we've been touching on a bunch of answers to the questions. So given your location kind of in the Pacific Northwest, have you been affected by the fires and how is your fire season there?
We're located right on the west coast, very close to the ocean. So generally closer to the ocean, the greener, the wetter everything will stay. It's true, British Columbia in general has a lot of fires burning. Some closer to the coast, but a lot of it's more up into the interior where it gets a lot drier. So our area, we're still pretty lush green here. So we get a bit of smoke, in the skies passing through, but we have not been sort of specifically, say, concerned for our safety.
Nice. So a question about how close are we to a large city? By flight, it's only about a half an hour to Vancouver, but by road, it's quite a longer journey. It requires 2 ferries and takes about 4.5 hours to get to Vancouver. That would be the biggest city closest to us.
Gotcha. Okay. And is your community primarily Canadians? Have you had folks from the US or other parts of the world?
So several of us are originally from the US, and then we have someone from Germany and someone from Turkey. And so, no, we have lots of international folks joining us,
Oh,
but they all have gone through the process of emigrating first. Hearthstone Village cannot, does not, I'm not going to remember the word,
sponsor?
sponsor folks, where we don't have the ability to sponsor foreigners. So in order to join here as a member, you do have to become a resident of Canada.
Okay. Okay, great. And then I think just the last question for you, you were saying earlier, and I can even see behind you in the building where you are, those beautiful naturally built homes. Yeah, tell us about that, about, do residents build those homes? What is the vision for when that build out is completed? Yeah, anything you want to share about the buildings?
Yeah. So as you know, there's many different sort of avenues or models. When we started the project, a lot of us were really interested in natural built housing. And the way we have structured ourselves here is that when you join and become a member, one of your class shares is basically for a lot. So we do a joining fee. So the adults pay a $10,000 joining fee to become sort of a full member of the co-op. And then we basically buy a lot. So on our lot, the owner of that lot or the member of that lot can basically build whatever they want, within reason. We've tried to encourage smaller dwellings, natural materials, but the design and the build process of each house is up to that member. So we've used a lot of volunteer labor here, whether workaways, and very similar to the woofing crowd. So that's been our sort of approach, is the housing is sort of developed by the members to fit their needs. And then at this point, when we moved here, we cleared an area and we put in 8 new housing sites. So at the end of this year, we'll have 5 of those will be built on. So we still have 3 lots up in this area where we're at now. And then the co-op also owns a couple sort of buildings that were here when we got here. So we have a big common house. We have 2 cabins that we rent out, and a couple suites in the common house. Yeah, I think that's, and then
let's talk a little bit about the natural products.
Yeah, so we have been really focused on our natural build housing here. So we have 2 different styles of housing. We have earth bag, which is, we've been using a mixture of clay, sand, and pumice, a volcanic rock, and mixed out and built into sort of a flexible bag form and cobbed over. So we have 2 of those houses on site. And when we cleared our land here, we did do some logging and had a bunch of our wood milled up. And at the end of this season, we'll have 4 houses that are built with a method of post and beam structure, whether dimensional timbers or round timbers. And the wood chip wall. So the walls are a mixture of clay and wood chip packed into forms and then cobbed over afterwards. But we have definitely been encouraging the natural build clay-based housing. We do have clay on site here that we've been able to access. So yeah, very local material. And so far, all of our new builds have been what we would call natural built housing.
Beautiful. I'm very excited that you're doing the slip and chip, the wood chips. I've done some of that for my house as well. Great. Well, I wanna bring the question session to a close here, but I think it would be good just briefly if you could touch on your food production and your gardens there.
One of the questions is, what do you do for food? You live so far away from stores. We're not actually so far away from stores. Powell River has stores. The biggest city center is Vancouver, and that's quite far away. But
our town has 3 major grocery stores within a 15-minute drive.
And lots of farms.
And yeah, as Jacqueline and Jamie mentioned, we have also a lot of small farmers, and it's a couple of us. We have CSA boxes, and we can get also food, groceries, or just the. And also we have little community garden here, and from the previous owner, we have variety of apples and quince, and we also plant vegetables, and we harvest rhubarbs and kales and use in our community dinners, and making desserts and salads and some other meals. And yeah, this kind of everyone also has own garden in their backyard, and yeah, it's just like a small batch, and whatever also needs, and we can get from the city of Powell River have, as mentioned, and we have a variety of grocery stores, and we can just like get from our weekly grocery shoppings, and yeah.
Yeah, we we are in a forest. We are part of the temperate rainforest, so our land is not agricultural per se, and we're not interested in cutting down all the trees to change it into something different. So really what we're doing here is more like food forests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, very nice. I can tell just by the number of questions that people are very interested in your community. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat and the Q&A box, just typing out the answers to some of the other questions. People are wondering about the winters and earthquakes and all. I think people are like, we want to move here. We want to really find out more. So yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, and hopefully after all the presentations, we'll have time to circle around to more questions. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Hearthstone Village. Okay. Good. All right. So now we're going to travel from Canada down to South America, and we have Terra Frutis here. We have Charlotte and Carolyn and a very sweet little one who might be sleeping. Welcome to all of you. I'm excited to learn more about your community. Take it away.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, Jacqueline. So we have a little video to start, so I'll just play that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our high tour of the Terra Frutis community in southeastern Ecuador. First, we will check out the community center. We have a space with a projector, exercise equipment, a hot tub, a mini library. It's a space where we come together and do yoga and meditate and dance and live our lives together, of course, protected from the bugs with these awesome bug nets. You can see some of our food forest out of this window. The next space we will be touring is the kitchen. This is a place where we prepare our awesome whole foods, plant-based, delicious food. We're a vegan community, so we're cooking vegan in this kitchen. We have many sinks, a fridge, a freezer, some shared food. This is our banana cabinet where we share an abundance of bananas. And this is our dining hall where we come together and meet and eat and play cards and once again live life together in this beautiful space. Also semi-outdoor, as you can see. This is an accommodation option at Terra Frutis. It's called Bungalow 3. The place I stayed for a while. It's an awesome area. Bug net, of course, required. Now we are in the food forest. This is a bread nut, machoa, papaya, green zapote, star apple area. And this is a part of it, where we have beans, papaya, peppers, squash, corn, root vegetables, flowering vines. And this is our nursery, where we have 50 to 100 different plant species, maybe even more deployed on the farm itself. An absolutely beautiful area where we're growing our future food forest. And here's yet another clip of our food forest where we have some citrus, some guava. And let's instantly snap into the fruit festival, the Amazon Fruit Festival. These are all of our awesome attendees from last year. It is an event that we host in January from the 17th to the 23rd each year. where we serve gourmet raw food, and we have breathwork workshops and exercise and yoga and meditation and connection exercises. Many of the foods you see here are harvested from the land, and some are sourced locally from our farmer neighbors in this area. The gourmet food here is awesome. We have great connection and build a strong emotional connection between those who have shared values. It's an awesome event. Here is us eating together on one of the evenings and another of us playing. The exercises are really great fun and you'll make some good friends. As I said, happens January 17th to 23rd. The last clip we'll show here is of a bit of a yoga flip and a pyramid. We have many cool events. Please see you there. Bye.
So that was a video by Grayson, one of our members. He couldn't join us today, but yeah, so he made that little tour for us. And so yeah, so Terra Frutis was founded in 2014. The guys who started it, they found each other online on an internet forum, and they went through Peru and Ecuador to find the perfect piece of land to start a vegan fruit-based intentional community. And they found the land, started planting fruit trees, hosting volunteers. And so the community aims to be decentralized and self-sufficient, use permaculture and agroforestry principles to produce abundant and diverse food for a healthy, high raw vegan diet. Do you want to say stuff?
Yeah, so what is so great about this community is it's in the Ecuadorian's Amazon. And this is just such an interesting biosphere. And one of the big takeaways of this place is that we want to produce 100% of our food eventually. And so we use syntropic agroforestry, permaculture practices, and we also are creating food forests in a place that is, you know, very susceptible to cattle farming. And so we're maintaining, how big is this place?
330 acres.
So it's in my book, that's pretty big. And so we're like, not only just conserving the land here, but we're creating diversity with all these trees that we're planting. It doesn't just benefit us, but it benefits the local nature, and we're keeping things as they are. And this is a high raw, it's vegan, 100% vegan. And a lot of people here are fully raw. A lot of people here are high raw. And there's this concept of sustainability here and ethics and fairness. And it all translates into the way that we live, the way that we communicate with each other. We have this philosophy of we use nonviolent communication, which is like how would you explain nonviolent communication?
It's like a way of like speaking from the heart, leading with like how you're feeling. Yeah.
There's actually a book on it. And so we use that kind of as the groundwork of how we, you know, communicate here amongst each other as a community. And so we live as a community here, although we also have like private lots that people can buy. And so we, similar to the previous community, we kind of have those different options for people who want to be more integrated along with others, or if people want to have their own little house, their bungalow, whatever, they can. Those are options here. And yeah, that's what I can add to that.
Yeah, and so people come here and they either rent or they do work exchange. So yeah, we try to make it so that people with low income can come as well. Yeah, and the kind of people we get, like the people who, you know, want to be self-sufficient, they want to eat a lot of fruit in a tropical environment. Like it's very warm here. People want to, you know, get away from winter. This is winter now, and I'm sweating. So
yeah, and this is really the perfect place for fruit farming, since we are not just in the Amazon and it's like tropical year round, but we're on the equator. So we don't have like those seasonal changes. And so we really have that to our benefit when it comes to like creating these food forests. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for taking us into the Amazon rainforest there, and it's incredible to hear about your goal to grow all of your food. And yeah, just thank you for your work to help to create a food forest. Yeah, it's great. And I would encourage our participants, our audience, to put in any questions you have into the Q&A box, ideally, so I can track them there. And don't forget, Hearthstone Village, you have a bunch of questions that still need responding to in the chat and Q&A box. So when you get a minute to type in those, it would be much appreciated. I want to start with first for a question for you all. Are you from Ecuador originally? Like, where did you come from? What was it like to move to that country and join the community? Like, tell us a little bit about your story and motivation.
So I knew about Ecuador because this is gonna sound bizarre, I went on a school trip to Ecuador when I was a kid, and I loved it. And it stuck in my mind. And then I grew up and I was like, wow, I want to grow my own food, like 100%. And being from the UK, it gets really cold in winter. You can't really grow much, like nothing really is produced in the winter. And so I thought, like, where can I move to grow my own food? And I thought Ecuador. I love Ecuador. I love the people in Ecuador. And so I was looking into, buying land here and like starting a food forest. And I found this community and I was like, wow, this is exactly what I want to do. I'm going to join them. So yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, and so for me, I'm actually Ecuadorian. I'm mixed. I was born here in Ecuador and I was raised in the States. My mother's Ecuadorian, my dad is from the US. But yeah, Spanish was my first language, and I've been living here in Ecuador for consecutively, not going back to the US for about like 7 years. And I really started getting into permaculture. I've been vegan for a long time, and I found out about a local, so similar to the previous community, we also have like neighboring communities. We have 2 other neighboring communities. We have one really close by, Evolution, and then we have Fruit Haven like 40 minutes away. And I found out about Fruit Haven because they do a lot of like publicity media on YouTube. And I said, and it's very similar to this place, but it's more of a homesteading situation. It's not like a community situation. And I thought it was really cool. I sent my other Ecuadorian friend there. She loved it. And then she came to Terra Frutis for the Amazon Fruit Festival. And she told me, she's like, this place is great. I like it so much. There's like this really cool community vibe, and they're creating food forests. They're doing exactly what we wanted to do. Because me and my friend, we still want to like open up an intentional community in one of her places. Anyway, so she came here, I came here, and I really love the place. So it's a mixed bag when it comes to the people here. We have people all over the world that come here, and in the mix are the Ecuadorians, but really, I think more so the Ecuadorian culture is not really so much into like the veganism or the permaculture yet, but there's that shift that's going on right now, and people are becoming more interested in organic farming and producing their own food and in moving out of the cities. And so this place is great. It's, how long has this place been open now?
It's been 8 years.
8 years, yeah. And they've really built a lot here. It's really nice, and I'm really looking forward to the next few years to see how this place like changes and evolves, and all the new people coming. And I would like to see more Ecuadorians here. We do have a lot of indigenous neighbors though, and we live kind of just like them. Our houses are built similar to them. We live like this is kind of like a tribe, and they live in their tribes, which are like their family members, their cousins and their nieces and nephews. And so we have those neighbors, and I love chatting with them, but they're not so much into the veganism. It's more of like vegans that want to find community. They come from far away to come here because they want to learn. They want to practice raw eating. They want to go fully raw, or they want to learn permaculture, or they want to be around other vegans. I came here for all those reasons.
Great. Thank you. That's really helpful to get a better picture for the residents there and the dynamics with Ecuadorians and how, yeah, it really is a community for vegans from all around the world. And I love to hear that there's other communities nearby, same at Hearthstone Village as well. It'd be fun to have your neighbors on future virtual tours. All right, so I want to go now to some of the questions. Let's see. Maybe if you could start by sharing more about the location where you are. How easy is it to access? How close are you to another town and medical care and other infrastructure?
So we're in Southeast Ecuador. We're at the point where the Amazon rainforest meets the Andes Mountains. And so it's mountainous, but it's also kind of a jungle. We're about like 35 minutes by car from the nearest town, but there's a village a lot closer and they have a medical center. And so if it's an emergency, unless it's like something crazy, then you can go to that medical center and it's much closer. For the shops, we tend to go to that bigger town. They just have better selection. And
nice.
Yeah. And we have road access also.
Okay, good.
It does get a little expensive going into town. And so what we do is we do like a once a week trip where one of the community members, he brings us on his truck. For the people that don't want to spend that much, because if you want to consecutively go into town, it does get a little expensive because it is, I think, a little bit far, out of town. Even catching the bus, you got to do a little bit of walking to catch the bus.
Okay. Yeah. And that's a lead into my next question about how residents there make an income working remotely, or do you have, an economic structure within the community to support residents? How does that work?
So most residents that are making an income, they're making it remotely. Myself, I do a little bit of work, like paid work for Terra Frutis, but also one of our neighboring communities is employing me to do work for them also because I have experience here. And so I'm managing to make an income from the communities. And there are some more opportunities for people also. So it really depends on people's backgrounds, because some people come here and they're much more suited for online working, like say, they're a teacher. And so it's perfect. You just have your lessons online. There's some people who are like they're maths teachers, or no, the one woman, she's a maths teacher. And so they're building a house up the hill soon. And so her plan is to live here and teach her classes remotely.
I also think that's something maybe that could be considered a work in progress, because we're non-hierarchical too. And we have like a group meeting every Sunday. And that was actually one of the things I was going to bring up, like more work opportunities for the members here of things we could do to create events and stuff like that. So I think it's also evolving at the same time as much as,
Oh yeah, that reminds me. So another way that residents make an income is from the fruit festival. So there was that little promo at the end of the video. And so that's one of our income streams. Like the fruit festival tends to employ at least like half of the people that are here at the time of the fruit festival, because we need the help. So
and they I think share also like their things, like if they're into yoga or into martial arts or into whatever, they basically share that and they make a profit off of their talents or whatever they like to do.
Nice. Yeah, that festival looks like a lot of fun. So it sounds like you are open to new members. What does that membership process look like?
So there's a questionnaire on our website. You fill out the questionnaire. We discuss it at our community meeting. Our meetings are consensus based. So as long as everyone's fine with you coming, then you're in.
Okay, great. And what is your website? I want to be able to put that into the chat.
So it's terrafrutis.com. I can, sorry.
Here, I can do it. I already have it up.
Oh, you got it? Oh, okay, great.
There you go. Yeah, great. Okay, so there's a form on there if people are interested in coming to visit and potentially explore membership. Oh, great. And you have your house rental information on there too. Oh, nice. So some nice photos. Great. Yeah, looks very affordable as well. I'm sure it's expensive to get down there or from over there from wherever you're coming, but I bet it's more affordable in Ecuador compared to other areas. Great.
Well, yeah, and we use the US dollar here. Ecuador uses the US dollar, so that's super easy for Americans. And so you can keep your job and not have to worry about like conversions and things.
Yeah, wow, that is really neat. I didn't know that. Huh. All right, and then age range of community members.
So 1 and how many
1
months?
and 9 months.
1 and 9 months, and then the oldest, Cedric, 47, 48. Yeah, so that's the current one. We're open to all ages.
Okay, nice. And then you had mentioned using consensus. So not sociocracy, but more of just a straight consensus. Or can you say more about your decision-making practice?
I would say it's probably a hybrid between the two.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Beautiful. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. You might get some more people coming to Ecuador after this event. And I think we answered all of the questions. I'm just going through. Yeah, if there's other questions in the chat that I didn't get to, feel free to respond to those there or in the Q&A box.
And then on the table.
Great. All right. So thank you, Terra Frutis. Beautiful work.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So now, oh my goodness, I was muted. I am so sorry. I didn't hear any of that. I thanked Terra Frutis. Thank you so much for your presentation. And now we're going to go back up to South Dakota and hear from Thomas with Black Hills Collaboration for Sustainable Living. Welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here. I feel a little bit out of place. You guys are so much further ahead. We used to have meetings. We had a meetup. We had people come and go. We never had land. We still do not. I'm talking to you today from the comfort of my little 2-bedroom apartment building. And we are a conceptual based. I've got a few slides that I want to go through. And the questions will probably be the most significant part of our discussion today. So I think I'll just get into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, give you a little bit of idea of the conceptual. Before I do that, I want to just discuss the fact that this whole process started for me back in 2012 when I decided to go for my master's degree in community development and sociology. My bachelor's is in sociology. I switched gears, 100% switch gears. I have 25 years in the industrial field. I'm a diesel mechanic by trade, 65 years old. So I've been through a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. I switched when I first went to get my associate's degree. I went because I wanted to complement my industrial experience. And I started taking my gen eds, and I realized that my heart was in a different place. I wanted to make a difference in the community. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And so I switched totally over to sociology, had no practical experience. Currently, I'm paying off my student loans by working for the government. So I just actually came from a job interview, otherwise I don't normally wear a tie, so take a picture. But this whole concept of intentional communities really caught my attention when I was doing my studies for my graduate work. And I did my graduate work on my capstone research is on using intentional living communities to help mitigate homelessness in Rapid City, South Dakota. For those of you who don't know much about South Dakota, we are on the western edge of the state. We're about 40 some miles away from the western border. The Black Hills of South Dakota are geographically some of the most rich land. If you know if you go back to your geology classes, we're on what's called a batholith. So some of the oldest rock formations in the world exist here. And that formation is about 60, 70 miles wide and about 120 miles long. And it slants off to north to south. So it's a very rich area. We have the most Native American tribes in the country. We have 9 here in South Dakota. So the closest two are Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation and Pine Ridge, which are fairly close. Pine Ridge alone has about 50,000 residents unofficially, and it's more like a third world country. So you might imagine that being this close to Rapid City, which is where I'm at, that we have a lot of homelessness. So we're going to go through some of these. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and see if we can make this work. So we're called Black Hills Collaboration for Sustainable Intentional Living. And what I've done is I've modified this a little bit over the years, because I've been doing this. I've been working on this for about 11 years now, and still don't have any land. Don't have a lot of people. A lot of people come and go. I have a lot of communication with people, but very few people are willing to roll up their sleeves and be a part of the core discussions, so to speak. We did have another group that we were collaborating with, but they kind of fell off the map. So my wife and I and a couple other people are basically the conceptual people. So this is like miles away from where you guys that just presented are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide. We are what I'm using for my vehicle is using the idea of creating businesses that we're going to take care of ourselves, right? We're going to get some land. We're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to do a lot of things that every intentional community does. I'm open to all of those things and more, okay? But what I call the hub for the first community is going to be the business center. So we are going to partner with doctors, or I don't care what business they have, they are welcome, okay? As long as they have the core vision to be a part of this community. One of the main things that we're going to do is we're going to contribute funding to the existing nonprofits. One of the things that we have to deal with here in South Dakota, and probably throughout the country, we all know how bad homelessness is, right? We know how terrible it is. And we know that the only way we're going to really make a difference, if that's even possible, by the way, is to start at the systemic level. We have to get into the lives of these kids. We have to train people. We have to be involved in people's lives. It's the only way that we're going. If we don't start with the youth, we're not going to be able to mitigate the manifestations of homelessness that arise when people are in their 20s and 30s and 40s and so on. So we all know how bad that is. So this is a conceptual model based on business cooperation, funding the existing nonprofits, primarily those that are engaged in systemic influence with the youth and other programs that help. So in 20 years from now, we can have a different scene, right? Some people have told me that's a really a pipe dream. Well, nothing worthy starts without some kind of a seed, right? Some kind of a developmental element. And that's what this is. So that's the core belief. So the main thing we're going to start with is the businesses, and we're calling that the hub. The homeless population will not live in the hub. Okay, we have, and this is some of the demographics that I took out of my research. We have 12.4% Native American population. I don't think that has changed much. Keep in mind that I did graduate in 2012 or 2016. I'm sorry, that was my bachelor's degree. So 2016 is when this research was completed. Up to 75% of Rapid City's homeless are Native American. And for those of you who have studied Native American culture, my degree is in community development. It's under the sociology umbrella, but I also have my writer with community development. It is also in Native American studies. So I really have a passion for making a difference in people's lives, okay? And the idea of growing where I'm planted, well, right now I'm tied for another 4 years to my student loans. I've got $198,000 of student loans. So I'm stuck working for the government so I can get those paid off and wave goodbye. And maybe when that's done, I'll come and live with one of you guys. But in where I'm at right now is where I'm at. So we work with what we have, right? We grow where we planted. So these are just some of the statistics to help you understand the plight of what's going on in our community. This is a tourist town for those of you who have been here or know a little bit about it. We have the Badlands of South Dakota are on the eastern front of the Black Hills, okay? Then we have about 20 to 30 little communities that are in the Black Hills. Rapid City happens to be the biggest one. It is also the second biggest city in South Dakota. Sioux Falls is on the eastern edge of the state. We're on the western edge of the state. So the Cornerstone Rescue Mission, they supply the needs of about 500 people a day. Since this research was completed, there are some other programs that are developed. None of them are long-term. So we have like an assembly line for the kids that are in trouble. We can keep them in some of these places until they're 18 and then they get kicked out. Well, where do they go? I would like to think that we can build this core community, help the nonprofits with funding from our business ventures, and then we can start another community that can be for people who are trying to make that bridge, whether it be from prison or whether it be from some kind of a halfway house where they want to plug in and be a part of a larger community, be something bigger than themselves, something more than what they've known, that revolving door of going in and out of treatment or in and out of prison, and try and stabilize some of these things that are happening in our homeless community. So that's kind of what we're about. Again, the hub will not house the homeless. We have to put on our own face mask first before we can help other people, right? So that's kind of the gist of that. I thought I had one more slide. Looks like we're going to move to, there's my email address, my address. If somebody's interested, I'm more than happy to back out of that again.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Great. Thank you, Thomas. That was a great presentation. And I appreciate your sharing the project as it is in its current state. And definitely it sounds like it's been something that you've been nurturing for a while. Yeah, and I appreciate having you on because I think it gives just a more realistic picture to just how difficult it can be to start one of these projects. And we hear from Hearthstone and from Terra Frutis, and these are communities that both, interestingly, I think 2014, 2015, so similar timelines, but we're seeing the videos of like all the things that are built and it looks amazing and wonderful. But then from Thomas, we're getting this different view of just a community in its infancy. And hopefully someday will be as big and wonderful as these other more established communities. Yeah. Great. Okay, good. And questions from the audience. Would love to hear any questions that you have. I see that we have a few already. So Thomas, what kind of businesses do you envision at the hub?
Say it again, please.
What kind of businesses are you envisioning at the hub?
Well, we could do virtually anything. It really doesn't, there's no criteria. Our goal is to generate dollars, right? And work with other nonprofits. Now, keep in mind that 100% of these funds that are going to be created are not going to go to other people. We're going to take care of ourselves first, right? So we're going to build our community, we're going to have all that, but one of our central core ideas, and this is going to gain traction when these other nonprofits that are helping with these systemic problems, when they start receiving funds from us, we're going to get noticed, and that's going to build. So virtually, if let's say, for example, a doctor or a dentist or whatever, a law office, or something that's locally owned or not locally owned for that matter. Let's say they wanted to get on board, whether they want to be a part of the community or not is secondary. And they say, you know what, I like this idea, and we're going to contribute. Now, keep in mind that we've got bylaws that have to be created. There has to be checks and balances. There can't, we have to safeguard the primary focus, which is to stabilize the hub community. So those businesses can sign on, and they can, what I envision anyway, is they can sign on and they can donate a portion of their profits to our community, and that will help us grow. So we can, as a 501c3, we can pool together, build around the concept of creating funding for systemic problems that lead to homelessness, and that will be our mantra. And then we can do, once we get established, we can do all those fun things like permaculture and everything else that's involved. But the main hub is going to be the generator. It'll be the money generator. So it doesn't really matter what kind of business. It's open to whatever. Yeah.
Okay, great. And do you have other folks currently in the ideation phase with you? Is there a group? I know you've had different people come in and out over the years. Right now, is there a group? And also, I guess along with that, if there isn't much of a group, what would you be inviting people into initially? Maybe some Zoom calls, or what are you imagining?
Indeed. Again, we had a number of people. I was investing in a lot of time into meetups. You've heard of the meetup group. So we were under intentional community for the meetup. We had as many as 20 people come. They've come and gone. Some of them are still in contact, but living their own lives, so to speak. So right now, what I envision is, if people want to jump onto this core idea, if they're on board with this core idea, I am open to any avenue of collaboration that we can use. I need people who are willing to help create bylaws. I need people who are willing to, if they're coming through the Black Hills, this is, like I said, this is a big tourist area. Please stop. Let's have coffee. Let's have dinner. Let's come on over to the apartment. We'll chat. We'll talk. We'll brainstorm. We'll do whatever it takes to get this to the next level.
Oh, awesome. I love that. I love that call. So all of the burning souls, all of the potential community founders out there who are listening, this is your call to engage with a community in the formation. Thomas, can you share your email address one more time? I wanna get that in the chat because some folks are curious.
I'm just gonna pop that screen back open there on that last slide.
Okay. Great. So, okay, so goals for reaching at
goals are, oh, it's an R. There's an R. I forgot the R. I'm so sorry. Goals are for reaching.
Goals are for reaching at gmail.com. Okay, so I'll put that in correctly in the chat. Goals are for reaching at gmail.com. Beautiful. Yeah, that's great. I'm sure people, not everyone is interested necessarily in joining an established community. Some people are looking to really get their hands dirty in the creation of something new, and especially for folks who are interested in this part of the world where you're living there in South Dakota. Sounds like a very cool place. I haven't been to the Black Hills, but that's been something on my list. So
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for your questions. All right. So that concludes kind of the presentation round of our event. And I'd love to switch now, shift into just more of open conversation among the presenting communities. So for the folks who are listening, our attendees, if you can think of some questions that might be relevant for all of our speakers, or anything that's still burning that you're really curious about, feel free to put that into the Q&A box or also into the chat box, and we can draw from those. Oh, and thank you, Melinda. Melinda's putting in some resources into the Q&A box. So I'm gonna move that over to the chat box so everyone can see that. Firstnations.org. Great, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess something I'm curious about, just tying in this theme that has come up from Tomas around the early days of creating a community. I wonder if we want to do some stories from Hearthstone and Terra Frutis about either the early days or, yeah, the growing pains, the process of expanding, welcoming in new members, new ideas, different personalities, anything you want to share that could be maybe helpful for Thomas, for other people listening who may be in the dreaming stage of creating a community. Yeah, what advice would be helpful for future community founders from your experiences? And whoever wants to start, you can just unmute and share your thoughts.
We're happy to start. So one bit of advice that I would say for any intentional community that's starting out is to keep moving forward. And even if you don't have a lot of members or land, it's really important to start building your foundation. What we did is we heard about a book written by Diana Christian Leaf called Living Together. And that this book is about how doing differently. And we took that book as our template. We found many of the wisdom and the ideas in that book. And it's actually, again, a requirement when we have a new member or someone who's interested, we ask them to please read this book, because it really gives you a great insight about the challenges and the actual work that goes into forming an intentional community. So when we first started out in 2015, we did not have land, and we just were a group of acquaintances, really, people who were interested in this idea of forming an intentional community. And so we started working together. We met twice a month around a potluck, but we started to work. We started to lay down the foundation. We decided things like, how are we going, what are our vision, our mission statements, what kind of governance are we going to use? That's when we found sociocracy and we decided to adopt that. How are we going to incorporate? Do we want to be a strata, which is more like condos for those who are from America, a strata, or do we want to be a cooperative, or do we want to incorporate as something else? So all of those questions we looked at very early on. Yes, we were looking for land the whole time, but one of the most difficult things to do was to find land that suited everybody's idea. We did a lot of exercises like, we would get together on a retreat for a weekend and just spend some time together looking at the big questions. You know, we were like, okay, you know, like, what are the priorities? Does everybody want a really sunny space? Does everybody want to be, how far or how close to town do you need to be? Things like that, you can be working on the whole time. And it engages people, and I think it keeps them, you know, coming. And ultimately, when it was time to put down money, some people left, but they're still our friends, and they're in the periphery of our greater community. They're part of the greater community that we engage with and have interactions with. And they'll always be a part of our memories of, you know, what it was like way at the beginning. one other thing I'll add is some unexpected things that you would think would be easy, like picking a name. It took us over a year to pick a name. So yeah, there's things that you just never know what's going to be difficult, what's going to be hard, and what is going to be easy. But I really highly recommend Diana Christian Leaf's book, because it was a godsend for us.
Great. Yes, and I put the link to that book in the chat, Creating a Life Together.
And I can also add, I wasn't part of the funding committee, or just as far as I see, they start also developing all these couple of initial policies also developed, and before buying any lands.
Yeah, policies and procedure. Once we got through those initial first steps of governance and incorporation, we started working on our policies. How did we want this thing to work? So again, I would encourage anyone forming to keep working at those things. It will attract your future members also.
Yes, great. Good. And I want to hear from Charlotte and Carolyn and Thomas if you have things to add. But I do want to highlight a question in the chat. My group is in the process, John says, my group is in the process of developing consensus around legal and financial structures for our community. Can you offer suggestions on how to understand the options and select concrete structures for ownership? So it sounds like Diana Leaf Christian's book would be helpful for people.
Yeah.
And then anything else you want to speak to on that?
I would say, pick something that is close to your heart, what your values, what you feel most resonates with you. For us, the cooperative model turned out to be perfect because of the 7 pillars of cooperatives. It just really made sense for us to, become this. It makes it more difficult. For instance, when you buy into our cooperative, you buy a share, which gets you the lot to build your house on. But if you ever want to sell that house and that lot, we will give you back the lot money, the Class C share, the foundation share. You get that back from us, but you have to find someone to buy your house. And that person can only be a member of the cooperative. And that is a way in which we decided we wanted to structure ownership, because we want people who are interested in living in an intentional community, not just people who are interested in it from the point of view of real estate. So when you sell your house here, you might not make a huge profit. We have guidelines around that. Also because we want to stay multi-generational, and many young families could not afford to buy into the crazy Canadian market such as it is right now. So these decisions, you'll find all the different models in Diana's book, first of all, and secondly, make sure it's something that really resonates with you.
Beautiful. Yes. Quick question. How long did it take you to find your piece of land?
It took 3.5 years.
Okay. Yeah. Long process. Great. Thank you. And I wonder, Terra Frutis, if you have thoughts, words of wisdom you want to offer.
Yeah, so I agree, that book is great. Yeah, that's definitely something that we've been looking at a lot. Yeah, we love that book. For the ownership, so it's, that's what I want to answer, because it's something we're dealing with at the moment. So historically, so we have 3 different properties that make up our community. And so for many years, it was just 2 owners between all of those 3 properties. And those owners, they just wanted to give land to make a community. And they were partially funding it, and we were funding it ourselves a little bit, and that's how it was working. And so then our upper property, we wanted to start having lots available for people to buy, because there was the demand. People coming here like, how do I get a piece of land to do with what I want? We're like, okay, we can make that happen. And so we were doing that for a little while, and then the law changed in Ecuador. And so now we have to restructure, because it was just people just owning land. And now, so we're shifting to starting a company And so, I mean, it's not a company to make profit, it's a company to own the land. And so now that we've looked into it, it actually seems like a really good option. It's like very similar to, I think you have it in the US too, like a similar thing. And so you can own shares of that company and that owns the land. And so that's like, it's making it a lot cheaper for people to buy land also because the closing costs go down. And yeah, it's just like super easy. And so, yeah, there's a lot of options there.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, our community here in Vermont, we have all of our common land is owned in that way, where we have members have equal share in the company that owns the common land. But then for our individual homes, we each have separate deeds and ownership over our homes, which are part of a bigger, kind of like a homeowners association. So yeah, it's neat to get into the different ways that communities are structured. Great. And Tomas, have you done research and thought about what sort of legal structures you're considering, or other advice you have from your very active process of trying to create a community?
Well, I think that don't have anything on paper. I know there's a lot of different bylaws out there. I've looked at some of them. The biggest thing, as you guys already all know, and those who are listening, is finding people that share the vision and people that you trust. There is no magic wand. It's hard work. You gotta roll up your sleeves. I don't have to tell any of you that. And the willingness is there, but you can tell people's hearts by the way they speak, and you can tell their willingness to be involved. I mean, take a look at some of your stories where it's like, oh, I want to live here, and so you did, and you made it become part of your life and part of your dream. So I'm not answering your question directly, Cynthia, but my belief is that when you're in the right place, when you're in the right frame of mind, when your heart's in the right place, things will happen. You know, it's not necessarily if you build it, they will come. Although I am confident that in a couple of years, when I start drawing my Social Security and I'm working for a paycheck, one of the best assets I have is been able to stay healthy. You know, I brew my own kombucha, all that healthy stuff that my daughters have gotten me into. And I think it's one of the reasons that I'm able to maintain the kind of lifestyle that I have. And I intend to keep that lifestyle. So when I do retire and I have I have an extra income, one of my first goals is to buy a piece of land. And I guarantee you, based on what I've been through for the last 5 years, with actively talking to people and having meetings and having people come with the idea of, oh, I'm going to an intentional living community, I'm going to find out what this is about. I guarantee you that once I buy the land, people are going to start to show up. I know that for a fact. So, but as far as the business aspect, people you can trust, I think, is the biggest component, and you can read that by how they act and how they feel and how they talk.
Great. Thank you all so much. I'm really glad that everyone has your contact information. So for the folks listening, if you have follow-up questions or maybe want to pick some brains a little more, you can reach out through the websites and the email addresses that were provided. And just a few housekeeping things as we begin to wrap up. So I already shared with you that all the past virtual tours, including this one, will be posted on the YouTube channel of the Foundation for Intentional Community. In addition, everyone who joined for this live event, everyone who registered through ic.org to participate, you'll get an email that'll include the recording, and that'll be sent out shortly after we conclude this event. And we're always looking for more communities to present. So if you are really excited about a community, maybe you can invite them to join this event. I'll put a link in the chat. This is the sign-up form. So if you have a community fill out this form, then they will be in the queue to present at a future event. We always do these virtual tour events on now it's the first Thursday of the month at this time. So from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, Eastern US time. And yeah, looking forward to having many of you back in August. I love all of the questions that you have. Yeah, and I just want to give some big appreciation to our presenters. Thank you for being here, giving up your time to share with us about your communities, to like really share with the movement and showcase the diversity of communities in this movement at various stages of development, different focuses. It's just so beautiful to see people out there pursuing this lifestyle and this vision. It's so needed at this time. So truly thank you for the work that you're doing. Yeah, with our final moments, if you presenters want to unmute and share anything that's calling you in the moment, and then we will wrap up our July virtual tour.
Just want to say thank you to everybody.
Yep, us too. Thanks for showing up and doing this, and thank you, Cynthia, for organizing.
Absolutely.
Where are you located in Vermont? My mom lives there.
Oh, Cabot, Vermont, outside of Montpelier.
She's in Middlebury.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. Terra Frutis? You wanted to say
We muted it because I thought she would maybe cry again. But I wanted to say, if there's anyone out there who is thinking about joining an intentional community, like just do it. Take that jump and just do it, because I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And finally, after having my child, I really was like, I gotta do it now because I want her to be around this type of environment. But I kind of wish I would have looked into it a lot sooner. And so I definitely recommend for anyone who wants to start one, anyone who wants to join one, just do it as soon as possible, I think, because I think this is really the change that we need in our world. Is we need human connection, we need connection back with the land, we need connection.
Yes, here. Well said. Just do it. All right. With that encouragement, we're going to wrap up now. So big thank you again. Thank you, presenters. Thank you, everyone who was participating. Thanks for your questions. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye. Take care, everybody.